Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Sky's the Limit. I'm your host Omer Butt. Diplomacy is all about working with people, bringing people together to work on difficult issues. This episode of Sky's the Limit is about a young man who learned English literature, who wanted to become a lawyer, a judge, but as it turns out, he became one of the biggest diplomats Pakistan has known. He's currently the president of the Azad Jammu and Kashmir region. His name, Sardar Masood Khan, and he's our guest in this very episode of Sky's the Limit. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Sky's the Limit. I'm your host Omer Butt in conversation with Sardar Masood Khan, the person who needs no introduction, but nevertheless, we try to have him, and we will, during the course of the program, try to inquire about certain aspects of his life that nobody knows about. Sir, thank you very much to have given us the time.
Thank you for having me.
Sir, it's our pleasure. First of all, sir, you were born in Rawalakot in Poonch. The times when you were born in, your childhood, what were those times like for you, for your family?
That's the most beautiful part of my life. Rawalakot is a valley, and our house, ancestral home, is on a hilltop. And so it's like paradise on earth. You have orchards there, you have tall pine trees, you have natural streams, you have four seasons, you have snow-capped mountains, and you have beautiful blossoms in the spring, and very, very enjoyable summer. So these are my memories of my childhood. I thought that that was paradise on earth, and I've been trying to rediscover it all my life.
All right. And I think that this image of a paradise still remains with those people who go to visit. Even in these current times, they say it's something like they've never seen before. It's a beauty
Yes.
which has no limits, or a beauty that cannot be described in words maybe. How many brothers and sisters were you, sir? Or are you, sir?
Two brothers and one sister. My brother died in
Oh,
2004. So it's just one brother and one sister, myself and my sister. So it was a small family.
While undergoing your education, sir, did you at any moment think that your parents wanted you to be a doctor or an engineer or something else, or pursue another profession?
Well, in my childhood, I wanted to become a judge
All
because
right.
I saw these judges wearing impressive caps and looking very authoritative.
All right.
And what they said was implemented and carried out with respect. So I wanted to be a judge. But that never materialized. My father, he used to ask me to become a lawyer.
Oh.
And therefore, I had this aspiration to become a politician. From childhood to my teenage, I somehow developed a literary taste for Urdu literature, English literature, literature of the world. So I wanted to be a literary figure. But then I was interested in political science, law, and if I had not joined the service, I would have devoted my life to the media, to literature, and to politics.
We'll come towards media and literature as well, but before that, your early education was in Rawalakot in Poonch. Then the family shifted to Rawalpindi
Yes.
for a couple of years.
Yes.
And then you shifted back to Rawalakot. Why was that shifting
It's
going on?
because of my father's relocation.
All right.
And I started my education in my hometown, in fact, in the village. And it was very simple and Spartan lifestyle. Education was good. That's where I struck my roots, as a matter of fact. But then, because my father moved to Rawalpindi and to a couple of other cities, I had exposure to Pakistan's education system. As you said, I went back to Rawalakot and did my graduation, intermediate level and graduation from there. So I've had this association with both Rawalakot and Pakistani education institutions.
All right. Tell us about your stint at Gordon College, sir.
Gordon College, these were early 70s. I was there, and it used to be a very, very prestigious educational institution. It was a missionary institution. Their standards were very high. The educational regimen was very strict, and the graduates from Gordon College used to get good placements all around the world. They were professionally sound. There used to be a very competitive atmosphere there for studies, for academic pursuit, for debates, for extracurricular activities.
From there, you went to do your master's from the Punjab University. What were your majors, sir?
English literature.
All right.
And we did, of course, the Victorians. Also, we started with the classical literature. We also did romantics. Also, 20th century literature was quite an experience.
All right. How much contribution do you feel has been from your teachers and your parents' side in your upbringing, in what you have become now, sir?
In fact, the inspiration in my life has always come from my father and my mother.
All right.
They were motivated, and their life was value-based. They taught us ethics of life, and they inculcated discipline in us. As I said, they also inspired us. So, and the teachers, of course, I mean, they played a critical role in my character formation. I reflect, in fact, the value systems of my teachers and parents combined, and I would always remain grateful to them for that.
That's brilliant, sir. I think it is due to your parents and teachers that you become the man that you are, personally and professionally. Sir, English literature, the love that you said you kind of developed in later years, did your father at any moment of time said, no, beta, I'd like you to go towards politics because this is what he wanted you to become? No issues from your parents' side on whichever route you wanted to take professionally?
No interference, and they were not disappointed when I opted for literature. But as I said, that my own natural inclination was for law, political science, the media, literature.
All right.
And I followed my passion.
So you also had a little stint as a teacher in the 1970s. Tell us a little bit about that.
This was our stint at the Allama Iqbal University. We used to have postgraduate classes. Immediately after graduating, I was taken as a lecturer, and I taught there for about 2.5 years.
Sir, you kept on talking twice or thrice during the course of this interview about media. You did have an important stint in the media with our channel, with Pakistan Television. Tell us a little bit about that. When did you begin? How long were you there? I know you did quite a lot of shows. You did news. You also worked for Radio Pakistan. How did all of that happen?
In my college days, when I was in Gordon College, and later when I was doing my post-graduation, I was a stringer to Radio Pakistan. I didn't know who a stringer was or what his responsibilities were, but stringers are correspondents attached to Radio Pakistan. I also did programs for youths. This was basically anchoring. And I went around the city, visited campuses, and sort of interviewed people and broadcast whatever I gathered on contemporary issues. Then, of course, I read news, English news from Radio Pakistan, and this was for quite a while. I think I kept reading news off and on, but even after joining the service, I used to read these, what they used to call them, bulletins at that time. So yes, I did that. And Pakistan Television, I did some primetime anchoring, hosted some programs. Television used to be mostly black and white. We were transitioning to color television, and I had the opportunity of doing some color television programs also. Used to be paid better if you appeared on color television programs.
All right. You were also the original choice for Pakistan Television's program Kasauti. Tell us a little bit about that.
By that time, I had been selected for the Civil Service of Pakistan, and I had to join the academy. It was at that time that Pakistan Television offered me to host Kasauti. It used to be a very popular and prestigious program, but I had to decline because the anchoring or hosting of that program entailed long periods of absence from the academy, and this was not working out. So I regret it.
All right.
But it was a good, huge opportunity, and the money was good according to the standards of that time.
All right. Sir, which year did you pass your civil services exam?
This is 78.
All right. You started your career in 1980, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, yes. There was a gap of 1 year when we were called to the academy in Lahore, and when we started our training.
Why choose the foreign services?
I did not choose the foreign service. I opted for the district administration.
All right.
But in overall merit, I had the third position. And the first two positions were taken by the candidates from, I think, from Punjab.
All right.
And since I had an Azad Kashmir domicile, I could not get into the service. It's complex. But then I could choose any other service. Foreign service was my second choice after the top two had joined the civil administration or district administration, DMG as it was called. And that's why I ended up in the foreign ministry.
All right, great, sir. Your professional life took a turn, something that would go and continue till the end of your professional career, till your, 60 years.
Yeah.
That's the age when you end your career professionally. But you haven't ended your career. But personally also, sir, there is a kind of a change in your life when you get married. When did you get married? Was it an arranged marriage, or did you know the person beforehand?
I'm married in the family, within the tribe, and I knew the girl that I married, but it was an arranged marriage.
All right.
And the year was 1978.
All right. How many kids, sir?
3.
All right.
2 girls, 1 boy.
Anybody going for the same profession as yours, sir?
Not at all. They didn't like it very much. And one is a doctor. The other is in business administration. He specialized in business administration. The third is a special child. And she also did not choose my profession.
All right.
So all 3, they have chosen different professions.
Who's near? Which of the 2 parents is nearer to the children, the mother or you?
I think the mother.
All right.
Because I have been busy, quite busy.
All right.
I've had very hectic life and hectic schedules. I try to give time to the family and my children, but I don't think that I've been able to do justice to the family life.
All right.
I have been there for them all the time, but I think that they are closer to their mother.
All right. But of course, they must revere their father for all the work that he's done, where he's come, and how people regard him and respect him.
Yes, yes. I think to some extent.
All right. Let's talk about your professional life. So your first posting was in Beijing. How was that, sir?
It was my first foreign country, first foreign city. And Beijing at that time was neat and clean, very well organized. At that time, it was under the communist regime. Although, of course, this reform process had started at that time. But I was really happy that I had been posted to one of the most important countries in the world. China at that time was also a mini superpower. I learned my first lessons in diplomacy in Beijing.
All right.
The people were very warm towards Pakistan. They loved us, they respected us, and Pakistan used to have good access. The other thing was that at that time we needed China's support in key sectors, science and technology, in the defense sector, economic collaboration, infrastructure development, power generation, and Chinese were very forthcoming. So I find those years, my early years in Beijing, as very productive and formative for me as a diplomat.
And following that was The Hague. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's a small country, but it's full of talented people. And they are very disciplined, they are very polite, very courteous, very tolerant. Things have changed in Holland, but in those days it used to be an ideal place. So we enjoyed it very much, professionally too. We were working with the Dutch government, with the Dutch Foreign Ministry, also with the other departments, and this was very productive.
You follow it with the United Nations
Yes.
in New York and then Washington, D.C., where you've gone from one important post to the other as far as your professional career is concerned. What was Pakistan's image in the times that you went to the UN and then to Washington, D.C.?
Pakistan was a respected nation all around the world because they thought that they were doing a good job in facilitating Afghan resistance against the Soviet Union. And we were a respected country in the West, in the European countries, in the Middle East, in the United States. We were allies with the United States. When I went to New York, the story was different because this period was important from two aspects. One was that we were waging the struggle for the people of Jammu and Kashmir in the United Nations and in the multilateral forums. And in Washington, several sanctions were being slapped against Pakistan. So this was a difficult period. And Pakistan's image, your question, Pakistan's image continued to be good by and large.
All right. And you were in Washington from 1997 to 2002, if I'm not wrong.
Yes. Again, a happening period, because I'll tell you that in 1998, Pakistan tested its nuclear weapons. India did it earlier, 11th and 13th of May 1998. We followed suit. It was 28th of May. And so I was in the middle of all the contacts between Pakistan and the United States. In regard to these tests, I also monitored sanctions which were imposed on Pakistan. Then, of course, when I was there during that period, our relations really deteriorated, and at one point there was a transition here because President Musharraf had taken over, and the sanctions under Section 508 were imposed on Pakistan. For a while we were treated as a pariah because United States did not want to have any association with us. In the same period that there was this rise of the Taliban, and we were supporting Taliban in Kabul because they had imposed the writ, government's writ in the whole of Afghanistan. But American attitude towards the Taliban was ambivalent in the beginning, but towards the end it was downright hostile. Then, as you know, that Al-Qaeda moved to Afghanistan, and that complicated things. And then in 2001, 9/11 happened. So it was a turbulent period in our relations. But one thing I can tell you, that I was able to see how the American system works. It's a very sophisticated system. It's probably one of the most developed, one of the most evolved political systems in the world in terms of decision making, in terms of representing the interests of your constituents, in terms of global outreach. So because my responsibilities when I was in Washington included covering US Congress, also the State Department, occasionally Department of Commerce or Department of Energy, other departments, think tanks, academic institutions, community from time to time. This gave me deep understanding of the American system and the complexities in Pakistan-US relations and the dynamics that drive them.
I think being a diplomat, it's very important to understand the dynamics of politics, especially when it concerns big countries, and you've been there, been to the Beijing, US and Hague in the very beginning, and as well as the United Nations. You then become the Director General Disarmament between 2003 and 2004. Also, in 2003, you are appointed as the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which you hold till 2005, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Being a spokesperson entails different responsibilities. You are the person who gives information to the whole of the media, to the whole of Pakistan concerning different events that are happening in the country. How do you consider that period to be, because you were doing two posts at the same time?
It was a very rewarding period, and you'd be surprised to know that when I was the spokesman, I also was Director General United Nations, Director General OIC, and Director General Disarmament, but for a while.
Yes, all right.
But full time it was Director General United Nations, Director General OIC, and spokesman. And I recall that at one time the American spokesman was in Pakistan, Richard Boucher, and we're sitting across the table, and he said, "How many people do you have in your office?" And it was Foreign Secretary at that time, or I think it was Senator Mushahid Hussain, Foreign Secretary Riaz Khokhar or Mushahid Hussain. They were also sitting on the same table. And he said that one of them remarked that you see the spokesman, you see the office. And the fact is that I only had one assistant who supported me. Of course, I had support as Director General United Nations and Director General OIC, but I had a very, very shoestring budget and non-existent staff.
But the responsibilities, OIC, the United Nations spokesperson,
yes,
they are, major responsibilities.
But I think that what worked was the access I gave to the media. In fact, the media reached out to me, and I responded positively, and I would respond to their questions, to their queries, and I'd be available, in fact, 24/7, and that made a difference.
In one way or the other, being a spokesperson, you are the hub of all the information that comes to the ministry, and on top of that, you knew everything that was going on in the OIC at the United Nations level. So it was a lot of information being gathered at the same time by one person. After your stint as the spokesperson, sir, you go to Geneva. You are, of course, Pakistan's ambassador and the permanent representative to the United Nations and other international organizations. You had already served in the UN. When you returned to the UN, what had changed in your point of view?
Yes. Let me tell you that there's a difference between Geneva, which is the European headquarters of the United Nations, and New York, which is the headquarters of the entire United Nations. Geneva is more technical, and New York has traditionally been more political and more politicized. So when I went to Geneva, I represented Pakistan in the Human Rights Council. It used to be Human Rights Council, then it was transformed into a new body which was called the Human Rights Council. And in the Conference on Disarmament, also UNHCR This is United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. You have ILO, then IOM. ILO is International Labour Organization. So many organizations there. And I think that Pakistan has a presence. Pakistan traditionally has had a very strong presence in Geneva. And I could not see any difference. You asked if there was any difference, except that the HRC, which is Human Rights Commission, had become Human Rights Council.
All right. But speaking of human rights, was the Kashmir issue still part and parcel of the Commission?
It was, because every year, during every session, we would raise the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. And we as government representatives would speak on the issue of Jammu and Kashmir, but then there would be NGOs or human rights NGOs who would speak on behalf of the Kashmiris, or Kashmiris themselves would travel to Geneva and project their cause and inform the Human Rights Council about human rights violations or crimes against humanity being committed in the Indian occupied Kashmir by the Indian occupation forces. So that was a permanent feature. But in Geneva, I was president of the Review Conference of the Biological Weapons Convention. Also, I did many other leadership positions. I was president of the Conference on Disarmament, also presided over meetings of International Organization for Migration, and so on. So it was. So there were two, in fact, aspects of my work. One was Pakistan specific, or OIC specific, Organization of Islamic Cooperation specific, and the other was multilateral, where I was not representing just one group, but I was presiding over different forums, which were international in character. I recall I did chair a committee on internet governance, and we did a year-long consultation on that, and then we went to Tunis for the summit. And this too was a very, very successful enterprise.
Because at that time, internet, of course, had been booming, and it was also the beginning, not the beginning, but the time where internet was finally being recognized in countries in Asia, including Pakistan. From Geneva, sir, you go back to Beijing and serve there as the ambassador. And during was it during that stint, or I think it was afterwards, that President Xi Jinping awarded you with a very special award? I think that was in 2015.
I went back to Beijing after 22 years. China and Beijing had been transformed. They were not the same city, it was not the same country.
Were the changes that evident, that remarkable?
Yeah, absolutely. Because way back in the 1980s when I left, it used to be a simple place, Beijing, Shanghai, most of the cities. Beijing physically and China physically had changed, but the attitude of the Chinese people towards Pakistan had not changed. We still were fast, close friends, trusted each other. And we were so close that we always used hyperbole to express the depth of our relationship. We said that this used to amuse diplomats from other countries. We used to say that our friendship is higher than mountains, deeper than oceans.
Deepest of oceans, yes.
And dearer than eyesight, sweeter than honey,
Yes.
stronger than steel.
Yes.
So that's the kind of relationship that we have, and we are proud of this relationship. This is a strategic partnership that we have between our two countries.
You were also the chief negotiator, sir, on nuclear security for the Nuclear Security Summit from 2009 to 2014. That is also a very important post, sir, nuclear security. Since we became a nuclear power in the region, this is one of the most important aspects of our governance as well. What were the major responsibilities or aspects that you discovered or you were into during that time?
Four summits were held, four nuclear security summits were held. This was an initiative which was taken by President Barack Obama, and I was designated as the chief negotiator of Pakistan. Chief negotiators are called Sherpas.
Like the mountaineers, like the ones
mountaineers,
who
the one
accompany the
who
mountaineers.
leads to the top. So we worked very hard. We represented Pakistan, I think, effectively, but we were not isolated. We were part of the mainstream, and we worked with delegates from all around the world.
All right. You were also the permanent representative to the United Nations. That was a very important time period because your association with Ban Ki-moon resulted in his coming to Pakistan.
Yes, when I went there, I realized that the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, had not paid an official visit to Pakistan. He had come to Pakistan during the 2010 floods. He'd flown in, he'd visited the areas, but this was not a formal visit. I think once he used to tell me that he passed through Pakistan, but he had not paid an official visit. So I invited him in 2012, and he agreed, and we were following up on his visit. But before that visit could take place, there was a change in government here. Despite that change, he visited Pakistan in August 2013, and he inaugurated the Center for International Peace and Stability at NUST, this prestigious university that we have, and he also celebrated 14th of August with us, with the people of Pakistan and with the government leaders of Pakistan at the convention center.
So you retire from your foreign service, and then you enter the political arena. You become who you are right now, the president of Azad Jammu and Kashmir. How and when did it happen, and when it was about to happen, were you somehow fulfilling the dream of your father?
I don't know, but as I said, I belong to the area. I have loved my area, and last year I was invited to be nominated as the president of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, and I accepted that offer, and now I'm the president. I've been president of Azad Jammu and Kashmir for the past 1 year, and I'm grateful to the leadership of Pakistan Muslim League Noon here in the Federation and also in Azad Kashmir, who extended this invitation to me and enabled me to become the president of Azad Jammu and Kashmir. But now that I've been elected, I'm president of the whole of Azad Kashmir.
What has been your vision since being appointed as the president of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, also taking into context that you're also a native of this area?
3 priorities, and these are the priorities of the AJK government. I did not set these priorities. These priorities had already been outlined by the AJK government or the Pakistan Muslim League Noon Azad Kashmir. These are accelerating the pace of Kashmir freedom movement. 2, economic development. 3, good governance. And this is my vision. I would say that in regard to Kashmir, we should demonstrate unity in our ranks, and we should reach out to the international community. We should go back to the international forums. We should leverage the strengths of the diaspora community, and we should use the mediums of communication more effectively in broadcasting our narrative about Kashmir. Now, I also believe that our strong Pakistan guarantees realization of the right to self-determination. and Pakistan should be strong strategically, politically, economically. That would ensure that we succeed in liberating Kashmir. Second, I think that when it comes to economic development, the Azad Kashmir government, the entire system, with the help of the Federation, is focusing on infrastructure development, power generation, high quality education, access to health facilities to all people of Azad Kashmir, promotion of tourism, investment in agriculture and extractive industry, and we hope to start off a revolution in telecommunications. These are our priorities. Good governance. I'm chancellor of the universities, 5 universities that we have. There our priorities are meritocracy, transparency, accountability. And we have begun this journey, and we remain confident that we would succeed.
All right, sir. Apart from development and all the other aspects that are part of your job and are also part of your vision as the president of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, there is also that inherent need to support the Kashmiri people. I quote what you said recently. You said Kashmiris have given their blood and they have been waging their peaceful struggle for the past 70 years. They have been victims of ethnic cleansing, genocide and crimes against humanity, but this has never weakened their determination to work for a just solution of the Kashmir solution. Now, sir, internationally, you've been raising your voice. Other leaders have been raising their voice from Pakistan as well when it comes to Kashmir. Why has there not been a concrete response from any organization, be it the United Nations, a very solid response, I'm trying to say, or any major country like the United Kingdom, which harbors a lot of Kashmiris as well, who've gone from Pakistan to there in the early 60s or 70s?
The two aspects. One, you must remember that despite all the hurdles that have been created by India and all the atrocities its occupation forces have committed in the occupied Kashmir, the people of Jammu and Kashmir, the people of Pakistan and diaspora community, they have held the flag of freedom high even after 70 years. We haven't given up. This frustrates India. They can't understand why, despite all their machinations, the Kashmir issue survives. And the streets of the Indian occupied Kashmir resonate with the slogans demanding India's expulsion from the territory. They say, go India, go back, leave our Kashmir. What do we want? We want freedom. So the other thing that I highlight is some people get dismayed, and I said that to don't get dismayed, because for the past 70 years, Kashmiris have never ever ceased to give their blood, because according to one estimate, about since 1947, 500,000 Kashmiris have been killed by the Indian security forces or their proxies. So this is success, this is not failure. But you also rightly pointed out that the international community is not focusing its attention on Kashmir, despite all these glaring violations. And this is because of realpolitik. This is because of India's strategic interests tied with the United States and other Western countries. Also India's false assurances to the Western countries that they would somehow decelerate the path of progress of China, because some of the Western countries perceive China to be a threat. And this is also because of these lucrative partnerships, economic partnerships that India has struck with these Western countries. So I would say that profits and strategic interests lead to the appeasement of India. And I think that by not paying attention to human rights violations in Jammu and Kashmir, they are also the so-called enlightened world, the developed world, the Western world. They are also becoming part of these crimes, intentionally or inadvertently. And I think that this, they're trying to, they are also complicit, I would like to say, because they have all the information. Let me tell you that in this past year, after the martyrdom of Burhan Wani, Physicians for Human Rights, Amnesty International, and Human Rights Watch, and many other human rights NGOs have published and documented detailed accounts of human rights excesses, the excessive use of force, forced disappearances, staged encounters, incarcerations. All this is available. And still the international community chooses to look the other way. And this is a challenge, but we should not lose heart. We should remain persistent. We should persevere in our effort, because we are calling for a peaceful resolution of the dispute. We say that there is no military solution of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute. We have chosen the path of dialogue and diplomacy and engagement. And India must respond to this call of Pakistan. And I think that India, on the bilateral plane, would never engage with us. It would attempt to reduce the importance of the Kashmir issue, and it would scuttle these talks from time to time on one pretext or the other. That's why I recommend that we should go back to the United Nations Security Council, where this issue rightly belongs.
So what is the way forward in this case?
Going back to the Security Council, to the Human Rights Council, involving the United Nations Secretary General, also reaching out to major powers. They would continue to say no for a while, but a time would come when not only the world leaders, but the international civil society and global citizenry would respond to our calls.
Inshallah, we all hope for that. Your areas of specializations have been in Kashmir, South Asia, Pak-China relations, Pak-US relations. Chinese president, I did mention it earlier in the program, Xi Jinping in 2015 honored you with the highest prize ever for somebody who's been promoting Pak-China friendship. And Pak-China friendship is something that has only blossomed with time. As you've seen also in your two stints, we've seen as Pakistanis here. What is the future of Pakistan-China, especially we've got the CPEC that's coming up and so many other ventures, and China's backing of Pakistan wherever it's needed?
The future of Pakistan-China friendship is very bright. The roots of our friendship are very deep, and we have mutual trust between us. CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, has cemented this relationship further. In fact, even before the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, we had strong defense, economic, political relations. But now we have gone up to a higher level of engagement, partnership, and that's why we have a very bright future. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is also acting as a catalyst. It provides Pakistan with a launching pad to become part of global connectivity. It becomes a regional hub for trade, for investment, for people-to-people contacts. And therefore, it's not just confined to Pakistan, this China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. It is a conduit for commerce and investment, but it is also a destination for investment in Pakistan. I would also like to highlight that Pakistan is becoming part of a bigger strategic paradigm. And the paradigm is right now that this China's initiative, the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, or OBOR, One Belt, One Road Initiative. Now this connects three continents, Asia, Africa, and Europe. And Pakistan is right now implementing the flagship project of this mega initiative, the BRI. So I think that very soon Pakistan's economy would develop rapidly. You'd be connected more closely with Central Asia, with West Asia, Southwest Asia, Africa, Turkey, Europe. And you would be an important economic player in the world.
Sir, you've gone through so many different important, how should I say, periods of your lifetime, personally, especially professionally. You've been to posts that have changed Pakistan's perspective around the world, whether it be at the United Nations, the United States, Beijing, or other countries, Geneva. Looking back at your life, now that you're president of a very important region, and still, of course, working for the betterment of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, would there have been anything that would have changed had you been given the opportunity to relive your life, or you would have the opportunity to go back a couple of years? Would you have changed something in your life?
Well, if you take me back to my 20s, I would opt for law as a profession. I like this profession. You have so much freedom there. And I would have pursued my love and passion for the media. And I would have written a couple of books on literature.
All right, sir. Really, maybe we'll see a couple of books written by you in a couple of years on all the affairs that you've been witness to. Any message for the people of Pakistan, for the people of Kashmir, sir?
My message is for all the people of Pakistan and Jammu and Kashmir, also for the diaspora community, but particularly for the youth. Exude confidence, believe in a successful Pakistan, and you can work for making Pakistan successful. Pakistan is destined to be strong, and it would depend on the conviction and quality of its people. I think that we are a gifted people. We've been endowed with natural resources, human resources, excellent, one of the finest in the world. And therefore, I'd say that step forward with confidence and with the conviction that you would succeed, and Allah will help all of us in achieving this goal.
Thank you very much, sir. You couldn't have ended with better words, and I hope that the nation is listening to you, that the youth of Pakistan is listening to you. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this program, this episode of Sky's the Limit. Albert Pike said, "What you do for yourself alone dies with you. What you do for others makes you immortal." People like Sardar Masood Khan are very important for us, for countries like Pakistan, because not only do they project the true image of Pakistan in the world, but they also raise issues that are pertinent to this region, such as the Kashmir issue, issues that need to be resolved at the earliest for this region to become a more prosperous and a bigger hub for prosperity to come in and for Pakistan to become a developed nation. Omer Butt bids you farewell from this episode of Sky's the Limit. We'll be back inshallah next week, same time, same channel. Take care of yourselves. Allah Hafiz. Pakistan Zindabad. And sir, thank you very much once again.